Okay, a warm welcome to all of you from the elected council and community members. We're just delighted that you would be here with us and join in this our monthly meeting. I'm Dave Longhurst, and I'll be moderating the meeting or leading the discussion, or I guess more bringing us to the agenda. But it's always good to be with you. Our first order of business is to approve the November 9th meeting minutes. May I have a motion and a second for approval? Leonard moved. I see a second from Reza. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Any opposed? You can just say it verbally if you have any or edits, any updates or edits we should make. Okay, great. Our land acknowledgement and open statement from Reverend Will.
We go. All right, we're getting started today. As we acknowledge the lands on which we work, serve, and play, let us watch this part 2 of the video that we started last month from Truly, California, about the Native American community in and near Hollister.
My mother, Elena, was an extremely proud Native American woman, and she too lived to honor her ancestors. My mother believed when ceremonies stop, so does the earth. I want our mother, the earth, to continue, because when she decides to shake us off, she can do so with no difficulty. Water is the blood of the earth. In our language, water is Ramah, and there is no word in the English language that describes the definition of Ramah. Ramah is just not H2O. It's a movement of the water, it's a sound of the water, it's a creek that contains the water. They are one and inseparable. And if you take the time to listen, you can actually hear the water talk to you, whisper to you. It's just taking the time to listen. 2 years ago, I was one of the initial signatories to get on the ballot so the people can decide if we wanted fracking or not in San Benito County. And it was 16-1 the oil company spent to every $1 that we were able to raise. And we won. It made national news, and there is no fracking now in San Benito County, which I'm so happy to say. I want to see truth in history. All lenses should be shared, not just a European lens. Non-Native people can learn a lot from the Native peoples that are still alive, that are still living on their lands, in a manner that is respectful.
We have a gesture of reciprocity and respect and altruism. As people of the land, when we give of ourselves, it will come back.
What I find so amazing is the Native peoples coming together, because then you can go forward with success. My daughter went to Standing Rock, and it was truly, truly amazing to see so many different cultures, so many different nations coming together. And that has to continue to go forward.
So I encourage you to pass this around so you can smell it, because it's very, very aromatic.
I would like Indian Canyon to continue the educating the youth. When they connect with the earth, it is magic. I share with them that each and every one of you are going to be in a position that you're going to be making very, very important decisions. Before you make a decision, ask yourself, how will this affect 7 generations in the future? When you answer that question, then make your decision. I love being alive today and seeing all the Native peoples really embrace their culture.
Thank you very much for that video, Reverend Will. That was really, really nice and uplifting. Thank you. It's now time for the reading of the covenant. May I just, I can either ask for volunteers, but maybe I'll ask for a couple people to do this who I haven't heard participate on this. Kate Newkirk, could you read the first 4 bullets? And then Sabra, could you do the last 4? If that doesn't work, if you guys aren't able to do that, just let me know.
Sure. I foresee covenant. In solidarity with one another, we each affirm our gatherings are interfaith gatherings. We come together from diverse communities to be inspired and transformed by the rich diversity of the faith traditions. We commit ourselves to compassionate and active listening as we engage in respectful dialogue. We welcome those who might differ from us, seeking their wisdom and insights. Each of us shares in the privilege of growing in interfaith love and understanding. Our working together for a common cause brings us together in peace.
Sabra, are you able to read this? Let's have someone else. Oh, Dennis, would you do that, please?
You bet, Dave. We are responsible for the work and outreach of the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. The governing board provides the necessary oversight and will be attentive to the elected council's ideas, wisdom, and suggestions. We will strive to support and participate in the various outreach programs sponsored and supported by the Interfaith Council. We hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards as we grow together in trust and respect for one another. Our time together is a practice of interfaith understanding, cooperation, and respect. We hope our time together will bless one another, our community, and the world.
Thank you, Kate and Dennis. I guess I would say that those values are needed now more than ever, and I appreciate us being reminded of our interfaith values. Okay, our opening faith reflection will be Reverend Marie Wilson. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, you're on. Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone, and happy holidays to all. This morning, I'd like to share a brief Advent devotion. It was written by a friend of mine, Yvonne Murray, from Menlo Park. It begins by sharing a scripture from the Gospel of Luke that might be familiar to you. Luke 1, verses 46 to 55. And it reads, "And Mary said, My soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me. Holy is his name. His mercy extends to those who fear him from generation to generation. He has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty. He has helped me, his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful to Abraham and his descendants forever, just as he promised our ancestors." Mary has just traveled to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who is with child. Elizabeth was filled with joy when she greets Mary and sings a song of recognition and blessing, reminding me of Ubuntu, reminding me of the beauty and comfort I experience when I am fully seen and loved for who I am. In response to being fully seen for who she is, Mary sings the song in Luke 1, 46 through 55. She sings of gratitude for how God has blessed her. She believes the message of the angel Gabriel and steps into her faith in God, not worried about the fear of possible judgment from her community. She's a young girl in a difficult situation, yet she can see possibility and beauty in her circumstances. As I reflect on this, I think about the power of living into gratitude and possibility in my life instead of fear and judgment. It is not always easy to take that path. I think about how much easier that path is living into gratitude and possibility when I experience being fully seen and appreciated by another. This leads me to wondering how I can more fully give those around me the gift of being fully seen and appreciated for who they are, so that they can live into who they are called to be. Before I end the reflection with a short prayer, I'd like you to consider this question this week. How can I more fully give those around me the gift of being fully seen and appreciated for who they are? Creator, I dance with joy for the blessings of my life. Be with me as I lean into a posture of gratitude and possibility in my life. Be with us as we strive to see more fully and compassionately those around us and appreciate them just as they are.
Marie, thank you so much for that very thoughtful message. I just think there's so much truth in that, of really seeing people as they are somehow opens up to a different kind of relationship and a different kind of working together, and just to really fully see where someone's coming from. So beautiful. Thank you so much. I had never equated that to the biblical story of Mary, and that's just a beautiful, beautiful connection. Thank you. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the Community Partner Report. We're thrilled to have Father Tom Bonacci, who recently attended a seminar, who's going to report back on his learnings. Not that Father Tom has a lot to learn about interfaith. He's somehow, we kind of think we view him as our guru, but we're so grateful for his influence on this council. Also, I'll turn it over to you, Father Tom.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me okay.
Yes.
And the week before Thanksgiving, I had the opportunity to go to San Antonio, Texas. And this year, by happenstance, the North American Academy of Ecumenists were meeting at the same time as the Society of Biblical Literature and the American Academy of Religion. So I spent 7 days with these 3 different communities. The American Academy of Religion and the Society of Biblical Literature meet in the same place, and their conventions go back and forth between one another. The North American Academy of Ecumenists just happened to be in San Antonio this year. And so I'd like to say is, I'll try to do this as quickly and concisely as possible. And I apologize to all of the presenters, because there's no way to take over 1,000 seminars and summarize them in 10 minutes. The fascinating thing about the ecumenical movement among Christians is that the dominant metaphor that was being used for this particular seminar is what we might call incarnational. And that is when your word takes flesh, when what you say is measured by what it is that you do. And a fascinating movement seems to be occurring in the ecumenical movement. Up to this time, we've been deeply concerned about dogmatic differences and how we might bridge the dogmatic differences that separate the various churches and the various communities. What now seems to be important is the real life experience of individual people and communities of people within the world. And so issues of women's rights and racism dominated the ecumenical discussion. This is fascinating to me, because in the past we would think that what divided the churches was dogmatic differences philosophical perspectives and worldviews, when in point of fact, what oftentimes divides the community severely, and this is not only true in the ecumenical world, but in the interfaith world itself, is that implicit bias, racism, sexism, all of the phobias that are associated by the ways in which we dehumanize or marginalize other people. To me, it was simply fascinating to spend 2 solid days watching this ecumenical discussion go on and not go down the pathways of dogma or even the traditional moral issues, but what today we might call the inflammatory political issues that divide the society. Because the interesting thing here is if the churches don't live what they say, then what they teach makes little to no sense. This also has caused a serious reconsideration of the place of Jesus in the interfaith world and the place of Jesus in the ecumenical world. Is Jesus the model of a particular teaching, or does Jesus invite us to radical hospitality? Later on in the Society of Biblical Literature, I would have attended a seminar that said that Jesus reversed the idea of salvation, that those whom the world damned are those who were invited to the table of the feast of heaven. A fascinating kind of thing. That the interfaith seminar concluded with the idea, are we really talking about a church or a community in which we have full communion? In other words, we merge into one another. Or are we talking about intercommunion, where the uniqueness of individuals and the uniqueness of people are maintained, but we come together rejoicing in our differences with a practical sense and a radical sense of hospitality and openness to all? The Society of Biblical Literature and the American Academy of Religion were both founded about over 100 years ago. And over the years, the Society of Biblical Literature has moved from simply being concerned with the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament to the sacred writings of humankind. So now it is very, very possible in the Society of Biblical Literature to encounter the sacred writings of the world. The American Academy of Religion has gone global. And so there were 1,200 seminars in the 5-day period with these 2 groups of people. I managed to go to about 6 per day. And of those, I would like to share a few insights with you. This is from the Society of Biblical Literature. The first thing that struck me as a very, very powerful seminar was on cognitive interpretation. In the cognitive interpretation, people were challenging the idea that we derive meaning from words by looking them up in dictionaries. To put it quite simply, if you want to understand what somebody means by a word, what they mean by a metaphor, it might be a very, very good idea to speak to the people involved. So instead of looking up the meaning of words in dictionaries, let's look up the meaning of words and the power of metaphors in one another's lived experience. The president of the Society for Biblical Literature, Musso Dubai, delivered a very, very powerful presidential address in which she emphasized the fact that sacred writings are now all over the world. Never before in history has there been so much accessibility, not only to the sacred writings of individual communities, but we now have the sacred writings of other communities as well. And that our lived experience, our shared experience of what it is to explore this wisdom is the future of our interfaith work. And finally, under interpretation, there's our dear old friend, artificial intelligence. This is from the American Academy of Religion. I wish I could simply spend all the time with artificial intelligence because I'm fascinated by this. The scholars probing artificial intelligence pointed out several things that are really critical. One is 20% of the electricity produced in the world today, over 20%, is used for the processing of technology. And so the development of AI and the future of technological interpretation and development has ecological consequences. Also, what's interesting about this, when they ask scholars whether or not a particular document was written by AI or a human scholar, only 21% could recognize the difference between the two. So as we look out into the future, the intersection of artificial intelligence and interpretation of text, the intersection of artificial intelligence, the interpretation of life, and the intersection of artificial intelligence and what it is to be a human being is a cause for alarm and a cause for amazement. I spent some time with the track on women. I've always been fascinated by the teachings of feminists, but I'm more attracted to the teaching of womenists. One of the people that was quoted, and I'll just summarize this very, very quickly, and it's not meant to be insulting, but it was a very, very powerful seminar on women interpreters in the history of religion. Oftentimes when we look at interpretation, it's a masculine dominant kind of field. So it's interesting to not only pay attention to the rise of women's voice in contemporary society, but to recognize women's voice throughout history. Heloise in 1101 to 1164 said this: "The male was created outside paradise. The woman was created inside paradise." I just find it kind of fascinating. I would like to explore the implications of that. There was a wonderful, powerful seminar on the books of Samuel and healthcare, especially as it pertains to the LGBTQ plus community. So many times today, people are using the Bible to say that in the Bible we have societal norms, such as marriages between one man and one woman, and we go into the text and we read the text from that point of view, as opposed to reading the text in all of its splendor and all of its diversity. This was put under the area of healthcare because oftentimes we see people in the racial area, in the sexual area, and even in the religious area as defective, unhealthy, sick, because they're not normal. This particular seminar challenged the idea of normality inside the biblical writings. Finally, that's when I went to the last seminar, which turned everything on its head, when I went to on the gospel tradition and the Christian tradition. That this Jesus, who oftentimes is used to stabilize oppression, was perhaps the greatest spokesperson against oppression in this life and in the next. I walked out with this overwhelming sense, who am I damning today that the Lord raises up as friend? So I think I went a little bit over time, but thank you for your indulgence.
Father Tom, thank you so much for those sharing those thoughts. That's so enriching, and we really appreciate it. Appreciate your leadership. And I think we all around this table, so to speak, this virtual table, can embrace what you're saying of let's use religion for what it was meant to be used for, not as a weapon. And let's see the good in others. Let's work together side by side. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, be well, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Our next agenda item is just a kind of recap of a big eye care service project over the last week or so. This is Food for Thought. And this is a nonprofit that's based in Richmond that provides food. This year we provided food for 700 families over the 2-week period of the holiday break, when the children don't get free lunches and often in the past have gone hungry. We had 184 volunteer slots that were filled over that 1-week period. The two faith communities that were really most involved in hosting this were Easter Hill Methodist Church and Temple Beth Hallel. We so appreciate their hosting. Tikvah was also a co-sponsor, as was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Walnut Creek. So we thank those and all those who volunteered. So I'd like to just share real quickly, if I can share my screen here, just a few photos from this event. Can you see the photo of Jan Warren there? Can everybody see my screen now?
No.
Okay, I guess I got to click here and let's try here. Okay, is it now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So this was food packing on Tuesday morning. This is the vegetable box. So we prepare 3 different boxes, one with vegetables and fruits, one with dry goods, and then the other, I think it's breads. And this is the vegetable box packing. Got to hand them over to Jan. This is Erica Baines, who was one of the leaders of Food for Thought and has been very involved in the Interfaith Council over the years. This is just a little broader view. We had this assembly line where people with boxes went around and picked up items from every station there. As you can see, the several stations. This is now on the delivery. This is yesterday, where we loaded up all these boxes. You can see Cindy Billsborough is loading box 3 into a van where we've loaded enough food with again 3 boxes, and then the fourth thing was we gave each family like 8 pounds of chicken. So this all went out to the schools, the local schools. I think we went to 14 different elementary schools, and each school maybe received anywhere from 40 to 65 food for 40 to 65 families. So we delivered those all yesterday. Here's the delivery of one of the schools. I can't remember which elementary school this is, but you can see they took the food and put it in the library, the little library alcove, just a beautiful little spot. And then they were going to later distribute it to the families later yesterday. This is one of the mothers who picked up food. You can see she's got her 3 boxes. You can't see the chicken there, but you can see the smile on her face. And I have to say, when we went into the schools and the administration received,
just wondering if you could go in for Anne or for an hour.
I think Susie needs to be muted. There we go. Thanks. When we delivered the food to the school administrators, I went to 3 different schools, and the amount of just appreciation and love and thoughtful, that they were just so happy to receive these food boxes that will benefit these families that so need that. Here's a little photo of the completed vegetable food box. You can see that's really high quality produce that really should help them get through a 2-week period. So that's Food for Thought, just a wonderful eye care project. And thanks for all of you who are involved. We'll do this again next year. And if you missed out on serving this year, you can have another opportunity next year. And of course, we have service projects coming all the time, and we'd love to have every faith community sitting around this table participate in at least one of those over the coming year. Okay, any questions or comments?
Dave, can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah, please, Dale.
Yeah, it's a great project, but I walked away thinking how bittersweet it was, because a couple of years ago, we were boxing food for 500 families. Last year, it was 600 families. This year, it was 700. And so that food insecurity problem is not getting better, it's getting worse. But the nice thing about it was we had the resources to be able to complete all of those boxes that offered hope to families. And so it's kind of like this is a project we're working ourselves out of business, that the number doesn't go up to 800 next year, but it goes back down to 600 or 500 or 400. So.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Dale. That's so well put. We love to deliver the food, but we'd love to see these families become, self-sustaining and do what we can to support them. Does anyone else have any comments? Thank you so much. Well, let's move on to the next item, which is nominations from the elected council to serve on the governing board. And just by way of governance, the governing board, which currently consists of 7 members, has the responsibility for planning the strategic direction of our organization, for planning of organizing and planning events and recruiting people to help support those events, and a myriad of finances and a myriad of other topics come up as we just effectively help run the organization, help support Reverend Will in his role as executive director, and of course support all the programs that the Interfaith Council sponsors. We currently, again, have 7 directors. We want to have 7 governing board members. We'd like to have at least 8, and we have capacity in our bylaws to have up to 12. So we could take several nominations from the elected council for people who might enjoy stepping into that broader role of the governing board. So I'll just pause there and open it up, and you can send nomination. You could speak out a nomination now, share how much respect you have for maybe a fellow colleague, or put something in the chat in a direct message, or email me or Diane or Reverend Will afterwards. So anyway, does anybody have any thoughts or recommendations? What we'll do, the governing board will take these recommendations away. We'll consider them and bring back our recommendations to the next meeting. Okay, well, if you don't have anything right this instant, again, this is not a once and done. Just think about that, and we'll certainly want to come back next month with some recommendations.
And if anyone is interested, let me just add that we do have an orientation document that highlights what the rules and responsibilities of are for governing board members, and we'd love to share that with you if you're feeling the slightest nudge to discern whether or not this is the right way for you to serve on the council.
Thank you, Reverend Will. Yeah, maybe we could put that in our chat somewhere if we have a moment. Okay, our next item is for the interfaith dialogue. It's always usually the favorite part of the meeting for me, where we have an opportunity to chat with each other about a particular topic. And today, the topic is on basically our mystical or meditative practices. So what the 3 questions are, which I think Reverend will put in chat, are: what are the mystical or meditative practices of your faith tradition? What kind of experiences do they or you describe having during moments of unity? And what works for you personally to experience the divine? So I look forward to that discussion. And Reverend will you send us the break? No, 2 other kind of housekeeping points. We'll want to wrap up by 9:45, so plan accordingly. We'll have over a half an hour to kind of converse with each other. Please identify in your group at the very beginning someone to take some notes so that they can report back. And when we report back, please, it's not a full accounting of what was said, but maybe 1, possibly 2 highlights. And so let's not, there's a lot of us to share what we've experienced. So let's just all be sensitive to time and try to limit your remarks to say a minute max. It's just a short report by the secretary. Okay, so with that, can we go to breakout rooms? Thank you.
How are you, Amelia?
I'm good. I'm
Good to
good.
see you.
Yeah, you too. I've missed the last few, but we were not around. So
The recordings are up on YouTube if you want to check them out.
thank you.
We don't record the small group conversations since those are
Right.
private, but
Yeah.
you can at least get a sense of where folks were with the report back, which we'll be doing right now.
Want to apologize to my group. I pressed go back to the main room by accident mid-sentence.
Oops.
No worries. That happens to us
Just wanted to make
one
sure
time
you're
or another
okay.
on.
We were being mystical and then I disappeared.
Yes, you were snatched up.
Oof.
But you reappeared.
I reappeared. Yeah, magic. It's the mystery of it all.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to do some report backs, just one or two stories that are representative from your group. And please do email any other items to interfaithccc, that's 4 C's, at gmail.com for the minutes. And let's jump right in with room 1, Caitlin Newkirk, Randy Thomas, Sabra Suharwardhi, and Susie Cole. Who's your recorder?
Well, I'm the recorder and I took this many notes, but
Oh, wow.
it was really an amazing conversation, and we all come from such different faith traditions. We had a Muslim person, we had a Sufism reoriented, we had a person from the Church of the Fellowship for All People, and then I'm a Unitarian Universalist. So all very different, but we all spoke to our different traditions and the way we pray or meditate, but we really came down to some commonalities at the end, which is obviously we engage in these practices individually, but also when we're together with a group, that there's sort of a commingling of consciousness, and that even though how we call the spirit might be different, the spirit is always there. Right. And so, and when we're doing that, we are connected at the deepest level.
Beautiful. Room 2 was Amelia Zaire, Ben Jones, and Tom Bonacci.
You're on mute, Ben.
Okay, Amelia, I took notes. Did you have any also?
I trust your notes.
We'll see. Okay, so let's see. So we had one United Methodist pastor. There was Reverend Marie Wilson, and 2 Baha'is and 1 Catholic. Let's see. So one common thing was with singing, coming together, the like meditation, prayer, and things that address the the kind of the habits, the traditions of the faith, of each of our faiths. But an important part was just being able to see people coming together, like 2 people holding hands on a bridge, or seeing a tree brilliantly lit up by the rising sun. And there's so the idea of God's hands and feet in the world. So that was a powerful metaphor for me. So and then coming together in unified action and being in a community, those are very important too. So did I miss anything?
We can't get to them all, but thanks. Appreciate that, Ben. Room 3 was Biff Barnard, Reverend Dr. Latanya Bynum, Leonard Dorin, and Reverend Victoria Rue. Who's your recorder?
Yeah, I'm the note taker, Victoria. We had an agnostic, we had disciples of Christ, we had Judaism represented, and an excommunicated Roman Catholic. That would be me. So the theme over and over again was in some ways the tension between what we do together in service, let's say, what we do together, and then that individual experience, and sometimes of silence, sometimes of being in nature. We talked about the feeding of the hungry, I Care, for example, that working together and then conversation afterwards across faith traditions can be a very unifying experience. Again, service, working together, service as an experience of mysticism. And the idea of democratizing mysticism, Dorte Zola's book, Democratizing Mysticism. So it's not a mountaintop experience, but in fact, everyday life. And a very beautiful expression of mysticism as singing together, as sermons, really good sermons that bring people together, and of course, silence.
Thank you. Room 4 is Dennis Wasco, Diane Maltester, Greg Kremenliev, and Reza Sharifzadeh.
I'm the recorder, Will, and we had Sufism, Buddhism, Roman Catholic, and Christian. So not that Roman Catholics aren't Christian, but I had to get that in there. But anyway, in regard to Sufism, Reza had a great explanation of what they typically have, and some of the problems that they have, which I didn't know about, problems politically, especially in Iran, where Sufism people are being prosecuted and so on. But the center part of theirs is called Kama Kars, and it's kind of a meditation and along with movement. And the key that they're trying to attain is inner knowledge, to know our inner selves, and to be aware of our center more and more, so that brings harmony, peace, joy, and relaxation. Then we had the Buddhist tradition. Of course, we all know about the great meditation aspects of that particular community. And what came up is we talked about Spirit Rock, which is a Buddhist center in Marin County, and we thought that might be a great thing, great place to go on a field trip. So we might keep that in mind. And then in our Christian tradition, we have centering prayer. And what we kind of discovered in all of these is that, meditation, for the most part, is probably personal and individual, but it's also good to have a group that you meditate with. And in our particular tradition in centering prayer, you have a Lectio Divina, and then you have 20-minute prayer. And we get together once a week as a community on Zoom, and which is open to everyone. And centering prayer is in many Christian traditions anyway. So it was a very delightful discussion and very eye-opening. And thank you for all. Anybody have anything to add? Nope. I guess we're good.
Thank you. Thank you, Room 4. Room 5 is Andrew Skarlak, Carolyn Peters, David Longhurst, Sarah Bretthauer.
Well, we were having such a good discussion, we didn't ever ultimately decide. I was the one who gave the instructions to have a recorder, and I didn't follow my own instructions, so sorry about that. Andrew, would you be willing to do that, or is that okay?
Sure, why not? I'll try. All right, so I'd say the main message that came out of our conversation was that in our traditions, we each have our own way of praying and our own structure for prayer. But as we talked, the underlying sort of meaning and the underlying sort of sense of spirituality and being in touch with something beyond ourselves seemed very, very, very similar. And we also talked about sort of the balance between ritual and let's call it spirituality for the moment. There's words in Hebrew for that, but it's basically, sort of doing the ritual versus the feeling that you have. And one of the things we talked about, all of us, was being open to the experience that, especially some of us as we've sort of stopped working and have more time, just being more intentional about opening ourselves, creating time to open ourselves to the experience of something beyond ourselves. And also in our day-to-day interaction with loved ones and the like, sort of allowing a sense of something greater than ourselves to be present in our interactions. So anyway, those were some of the sort of overarching themes, it seems to me, that we talked about.
Thanks, Sandy. Room 6 was Cindy Billsborough, Cynthia Peters, myself, and Reverend Willie McDaniels, who had to run. Cindy, are you able to share anything?
He's muted, Will.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find my mouse to unmute me. We had all Christians in our foursome, but with different experiences. We many of us meet weekly in groups to share spiritual experiences. And we talked about fasting and how that intentional fasting contributes to creating a spiritual, meditative experience. We also talked about hymns and how the words of hymns, and Reverend McDaniel actually commits his scriptures to memory, and then he creates songs with them. And I thought that was neat. So he kind of sings them throughout the day, whatever scripture that he's centering on that day. And that was neat. Reverend Will talked a lot about the things he learned in seminary and his experience with constructing labyrinths. And how that helped him. And you'll have to ask him about his experience with the fruit fly in the labyrinth. So.
We'll leave that one for conversation. So we do have some announcements, and if you have announcements that you want to share, please get them ready. And I've got 3 prepared right now, so let me get these ready to share real quick so that we can all see them. These are ones from our events calendar, and you can submit any of your events to our calendar as well with a little submit your event link that's on our website. Sufism Reoriented is having a concert on solstice evening, Once Upon a Midnight Clear concert there at Sufism Reoriented, and it's free. San Francisco Interfaith Council is putting together the Ministry of Housing event on January 18th. So if you or your congregation's looking into using some of your congregation's campus for housing that's affordable for those that need it the most, there's an event at St. Mark's Lutheran on January 18th during the middle of the day there. And an evening of gospel music with Lena Bird Miles and the Oakland Interfaith Gospel Choir. My tenor at my church is a part of this choir. It's fabulous, and you don't want to miss this. It's at Temple Hill in Oakland, and the tickets are 20 to 35. And all of that information is in our events calendar. And so let's move to Leonard Dorin for our closing. Oh, let's open up for other announcements. I'm sorry, and then Leonard will be able to close us out.
Dennis.
The Contra Costa, I'm not sure exactly. Oh, the Contra Costa Health and Housing and Homeless Services is having a count in time, or let's see, what do they call it? Point in time count. And this will be on January 24th. And if you haven't ever been on this, it's what they do is they organize it very, very well, and you actually have an orientation prior to it. But you go out in the early morning hours, and they start at 5:30 a.m. and it goes until I think probably 8 a.m. or so. And you're paired up with another person, and you go and you're given a particular area where you count the. You don't encounter the homeless people, you just count, and a lot of it is guesstimates and so on. But it helps the county determine exactly how extensive the homeless problem is. So I'll
and it determines how much money that we get from the federal government based on how many folks we're able to count. So this really helps our county get more money to help address and serve those folks living without shelter.
Yeah, so I'll put that in the calendar, and it's going to be in the newsletter coming out shortly. So thank you.
Randy Thomas has his hand up. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, we were working on developing a retreat it was in November, I believe, and then it was postponed because we didn't have a lot of people that signed up. But this group of people exploring these, the inquiries and the sharing their experiences is kind of the heart of what we were planning for our retreat. And what I would suggest perhaps is that people, and the themes of the retreat was encounter, engagement, emergence, communion, and presence. And what I see here and what I hear here is a collective wisdom, consciousness, and love that's come out of this group. And wanting maybe to invite people to be on the team with us in developing that retreat for next year.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't set any dates with San Damiano yet, but we're hoping to set those up soon. Any other announcements? Then Leonard, take it away.
You're muted.
Okay. Will asked me to make a few remarks about the feelings of Jews in these terrible times. I can't speak for everyone, but for myself and the people that I know. Some of us grew up listening to stories of the old country where children were shot in front of their parents, husbands were shot in front of their wives, and it was a story that drove our family and other families like ours to come to the United States for freedom from fear and hope for the future. World War II reoriented society and people moved west, and after the war there was integration and less overt problems. All of this integration and acceptance is falling by the wayside with a significant rise in anti-Semitism due to a lack of education. After the meeting, I'm going to send everyone an article by Peggy Noonan. Read it and understand why we are where we are. It is distressing to see the ignorance and certainly no understanding involved. Cheap slogans and easy to hook on flags are easy to do. but we need to get into the real core of what is happening and why it is happening. Certainly everybody I know and everybody who passes me on to a next generation of knowing say that what is happening now is a tragedy. It's unacceptable. But then what no one has a clue as to what to do. Just this morning, the BBC announced that a group of Hamas fighters were captured in a hospital, hiding in a hospital. So it's, to me, it is very important to separate Hamas from the militants. Everyone is upset with this hate and ignorance that we have among us. The real solution is respect your neighbor and their beliefs and their culture. Discuss and listen to other views. The IFC is the goal we want to achieve in this world. It is the light of the season. So in this season of light and its promise for a new day, may you all be blessed for the work you do. May your God bless you for this effort and keep us guided in the right direction and not let us become victims of slogans of ignorance and hate. May your efforts lead to peace. It is the only way forward.
Leonard, thank you so much for those beautiful thoughts. And let me just second that idea that we are all in this together. Let's listen to all perspectives and be open to hearing. And above all, let's show humanity to each other and do all we can to create this strong bond among ourselves. I attended both a Muslim service and a Jewish service last Friday, and I was struck by the similarity of the message. The Muslim message was, before we can have peace in a place long and far away, we need to have peace in our hearts, and we need to be peacemaking among our fellow congregants and then in our communities. And I heard a similar message at Temple Isaiah at the Jewish service, which was darkness does not drive out darkness, only light does. War doesn't drive out war, only peace does. And hate doesn't drive out hate, only love does. And this idea of us embodying in our core, those principles, and that's the principles of interfaith dialogue. I just encourage us all to do that, to reach across and reach out to each other. It's a difficult time. So thank you, Leonard, for sensitively addressing kind of a perspective on this. And there are so many perspectives, and I really appreciate that. So thank you
I
all.
have a couple closing announcements before we leave out. Let me just share some of these in slide form. We are finalizing the Winter Ministering Together newsletter. It's going to be mailed in early January. So if you have anything to submit for that, please send it to Charlotte in the office soon. The calendar for December and January was in your docket, but we try to be with each other as much as we can, and being there in presence with our Muslim and Jewish and Orthodox friends right now, given the conflict in Israel and Palestine, allows us to be in solidarity with all of us. And then, of course, all of our YouTube editions are on our YouTube channel, including our last meeting. And the iCare updates just came out by an email today. So if you're on our e-blast list today, you probably received it. But there's some congregational sponsors needed for a few of these. And please take a look at that email. And of course, our Meaningful Mondays will not meet on New Year's Day, but on January 8th. And we'll be discussing chapters 20 and 22. We'll only have 2 more meetings in this book, and then we'll be into a new book by a Baha'i writer named Rainn Wilson, who you may have seen as an actor that on The Office. He played Dwight on The Office, and he has written a book called Soul Boom: Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution. Have a great day. Be the peace you want to see in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Shalom, salam.
Peace.
Be well, everyone. You're muted there, Diane. Let me turn off the recording.